thank you, Kristin, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
I really want to jump right in because I was very involved in your book from like minute one. I read that your third novel seemed like a kind of Harriet the Spy for grown-ups, but then your first two books, they're all serious topics, but kind of more somber tones. So could you just give us a feeling of how you got those places and what was natural?
Sure, happy to. The common thread through the four novels is women. That is the thing that I come back to no matter what kind of story I'm writing. So the first two, Thirsty and then The Art of Floating, had a much more somber tone, especially the first one, Thirsty. I feel like I am growing into my voice and how I tell stories. Agatha Arch is afraid of everything and Clementine Crane prefers not to. They are very representative of who I am and how I speak in the world. And it's taken time and novels to really be able to get that voice on the page.
That's very fascinating and encouraging, probably, for a lot of writers.
I hope.
The way that your work is described, those navigating the demands of family, ambition, and identity while confronting the patriarchal structures that hold them back. So, how do you do it?
I think I'm probably much better at getting my characters to find ways of dealing with it than myself. I am in that same place as Clementine Crane. Menopausal, have been through perimenopause, suffered the hot flashes, but the night sweats were what really killed me. Married, 2 kids, my parents live with me. So it's a lot. And that patriarchal structure, I have been butting my head against it my entire life. I think I was born conscious of it and have tried to find ways to battle it. And I think I'm finally, once again, finding my voice for doing so in my books as well.
So one of the things in the second chapter, especially, that I loved was how you wrote, you just integrated, she's in the middle of a staff meeting, actually like advocating for a better title, which I loved. I'm also the child of 2 librarians, so pretty accurate. But in the middle of it, she's handling like questions from her family, and not just like questions, but things you have to go in and do, like fill up a lunch pass or things like that, which it's fascinating to see it, to read it like that, because you don't think of how much you do being a parent with all these like different technologies. How is that, do you think, affected relationships or communication?
Well, I think the one thing that technology has done is increase the mental load for women even more. Like, I think it was already heavy pre-technology. Women have been, in most cases, responsible for packing lunches, making sure you have lunch money, doctor appointments, who needs this, whose boots are too small, what friend are you arguing with, both the day-to-day physical, tactical things, but also the emotional development of kids. And I think technology has just blown that out of the water because everyone has access to you constantly. So it's constantly like you're in a meeting and the doctor's office is texting you, please confirm this. You need a haircut, please confirm that. Oh, there's a delivery of this. This med is ready. I mean, it's non-stop. And so while women are still in their jobs and still trying to achieve their dreams and still trying to achieve goals, they're also managing so much for so many other people. And I really wanted to express that in a way that feels real, not just telling people, but like showing them what it feels like through Clementine's life.
Yeah, as much as I was enjoying it, it was also really hard.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's interesting that it increases the mental load.
Because I think, in some ways it makes it all easier because you don't have to sit at home and call from a landline. But you're at everybody's beck and call all the time. So, and I think the thing that's like, yes, this book is funny. I hope women laugh, and I don't know if any men read it, if they will laugh and have a deeper understanding, but it's also very serious. Like women are in a serious time with all this. And I feel like we're pushing back on the responsibilities, sometimes to, more success than others, depending on your husband, your family, your boss, everything. But there's, as funny as I hope it is, I hope people also see how serious it is.
Let's go to the doll's house for a second.
Yeah.
A doll's house.
A Doll's House, Ibsen's play.
When that popped up too, it was just like, okay, you have like everything for me. Thanks.
I'm actually very happy.
And I can see with just reading the first 2 chapters, kind of the comparisons between Clementine and Nora, but and probably others. But was that something that you had thought of when you started, or was it just natural?
So I first read that play, I think it was 9th grade in high school, like 2 million years ago, maybe 10th grade. And I just was obsessed. It like planted this seed because, like I said, I have been hyper aware of women and women's roles forever. And I held on to it. I knew, because I knew I was a writer very early in life, I knew that eventually that would come into something that I wrote. I didn't know what, I didn't know when. And then when I started writing Clementine, I think the first thing I needed was a name for her husband. And I was like, his name is Torvald, which is Nora's husband in A Doll's House. So yeah, I mean, it finally found its home.
Hedda Gabler was the one that Ibsen that I really latched onto for whatever reason. Stories really linger back to like Ibsen was much earlier, but basically what I've learned from plays and the fact that women going through menopause could be labeled hysterical, right?
Yeah.
Back, which I learned from Tennessee Williams.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't mean to make this a footnote thing. It's just like so fun to really be able to identify these.
Through history, literary history, absolutely.
Where do you think menopause is right now in terms of the kind of cultural conversations? Because we have more visibility on it, but...
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely an uptick in conversations about it and having it, be spoken about publicly, not being hidden, hiding yourself when you're having a hot flash. There's actually, I don't know if it's a college or a company that just opened like their hot flash rooms, really, which I think is brilliant. You have nursing rooms for nursing moms. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. So there's a lot of people like Tamsin Fadal and Dr. Mary Claire Haver and Halle Berry and all of these, well-known people who are bringing it to light. And then I don't know if you're aware of the We Do Not Care Club that started on social media, which is really like, I'm so excited because I feel like it's the I Prefer Not To Club. Like it's finally coming to fruition. It's life imitating art because I wrote this, 4 years ago. So I think it's taking hold and women are connecting on it. And that's exactly what needs to happen. We need to keep having this conversation and finding both the humor, but also the help, for it. There was, for years, hormone replacement therapy was shunned because of, don't quote me, but there was one study that said it caused cancer. And then all the doctors who actually treated menopause, which were few, said, no, you can't do that. And it's come to light that that is absolutely not the case, that it's very helpful. And so finally, a lot of the research is also beginning to get done. I think we have a lot more research to do.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like right after I started Perry, I went to a retreat with a client, and just from the way that we all answered, "How are you?" there were like 2 other women that I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." Like we all connected with her
without even like saying it out loud.
Yeah. And it made it easier to like express my discomfort, I guess. That brings me to her neighbor. It seems like she'll be such an interesting character. And I just would love to hear about like connections and like we were just saying how women can connect and support each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's another very common thread in my books is women befriending, supporting, taking care of each other. That was very important in Agatha Archer's Afraid of Everything. And once again, in this one, Clementine's neighbor is an 87-year-old woman, and they are best friends. Like, they are there for each other. And she plays a very important part in the development of the story. And I really value inter-age, I'm not sure what the phrase is, inter-age friendships among women. I feel like for very long we were, everybody's separated because of how old you are or where you are in life. You're just getting your first job, you're just out of college, you're entering your second phase in your career, as opposed to like women reaching, over the boundaries and seeing what they can learn from each other. And these two, Clementine and Georgia, they do it so well, so well.
I also want to go back to China actually, because I read that you were in Shanghai. We were in Beijing in 2019, 2021. I wanted to know about that because what you were saying earlier about like coming into your own and finding your voice. Travel is just so incredible for that anyway. And also, is that where your motherhood journey started?
Yes. So we moved to China, my husband and I, in 2006. We had only known each other for 6 months when we moved there. We met, we married, we moved to China within 6 months. Neither one of us spoke a word of Mandarin when we moved. We were there for 5 years. So we came home in 2011. For me, that experience was astounding. I loved, as challenging as it was in many ways, I loved every second of it. I wrote The Art of Floating there, the entire book, and then that came out in 2016. But one of the most profound things that happened was, as you know, when you live in China, you have people work in your home. You have an IE. So for 5 years, I had this amazing IE who cooked and cleaned and washed our clothes and went shopping, and the only thing I had to do was be a new wife at first, and then our daughter came home. And the mental load was so much lighter. And, my husband laughs. He's like, you were a much better wife in China. Like, yes, I was. Because I didn't have to do all the things. I wasn't tracking all the things for all the people and keeping everybody afloat. And that, I really need to write about that part of that experience because it is astounding for women. There's a lot of other things. And our daughter came home. So our kids came home through adoption. My daughter is from Vietnam and my son is from China. And my daughter came home in 2008. So we had been there about 2.5 years when we adopted. So she spent her first 2.5 years there, and then we moved back to the States, and then we actually adopted from China and traveled back to bring my son Yao home.
In terms of like that mental load being gone and then coming back, and you were only a new wife there, like then you come back and you have that. So how did you transition? How did that work?
It was the bumpiest road. A new wife who had never lived in the U.S. with her husband. So when we got married, we were living in a country where I had a lot of help. I was not doing all the tasks. I was not doing the cooking and the cleaning and the this and the that. And then we came home and I had a kid and a husband and then a job, and I wasn't just writing. And it was a very bumpy ride. And I still curse my husband on some days because I wanted to stay and he wanted to come back. So yeah, it really, and I think I was also saying that I really need to write about that experience because I don't think until you don't have that mental load, hanging over you at every second, it's hard to even understand what it would be without it.
I remember when the first time after starting motherhood that I was going on a business trip by myself. I told one of my colleagues and she was like, okay, here's what you do. You take a bath and you shave your legs twice. Like That is exactly what I want to do. Yes.
Exactly. Yes.